I'd like to welcome everybody. My name is Stephen Athanasios, professor in the School of Education. Our chair of the graduate group in education, Professor McCall Kurlander, was caught getting off a flight, and she was planning to introduce the session, and she asked if I would say a few words. So I want to introduce you. This is an event sponsored, co-sponsored by the Graduate Group in Education, an interdisciplinary body on campus, and the School of Education. And the particular day has been organized by three of our wonderful faculty members, Professors Danny Martinez, Marcela Cuellar, and Alexis Patterson. We have this terrific group of panelists that you're going to hear from in a few moments, and now I will turn it over to Danny Martinez, who's going to introduce you to them.
Thank you all for joining us today. Just want to give you a little structure of what's going to happen today. We're going to hear from each one of our presenters. First, we'll hear from Dr. Antero Garcia, Dr. Maribel Santiago, and then Dr. Juan Garibay. This will be followed by a few comments by Professor Dr. Steve Athanasios, Professor Doctor, who will then open the floor up for questions from the audience. And we really hope we can, and I know we'll generate some questions from you all and some comments about their amazing work. I have the pleasure of first introducing you all to Dr. Antero Garcia, who will be our first presenter. So I'll give you a few things about Dr. Garcia. So Dr. Antero Garcia is an assistant professor in the English department at Colorado State University in Fort Collins, Colorado. His research focuses on developing critical literacies and civic identity through the use of mobile media and gameplay in formal learning environments. Prior to moving to Colorado, Antero was a teacher at a public high school in South Central Los Angeles for 8 years. He thinks 8, 9, 10, could be, yeah. During 4 of these years, graduate students, you have to listen to this. During 4 of these years, he was a full-time PhD student at UCLA, where he received his PhD in the Urban Schooling Division in the Graduate School of Education and Information Studies. Prior to that, in 2008, Dr. Garcia co-developed the Black Cloud game that became a digital media and learning competition award recipient. The Black Cloud provoked students to take real-time assessment of air quality in their community using custom-developed sensors that measured and sent data about air quality. Again, while he was a teacher and graduate student, Antero was also a U.S. Department of Education Teaching Ambassador Fellow, a program designed to involve teachers in the development of and implementation of national education policy. Dr. Garcia's work has been published in the Harvard Ed Review, Teachers College Record, the English Journal, and Rethinking Schools, to name a few. He is also the author of 4 books. The most recent, Pose, Wobble, Flow, a great teacher education book, A Culturally Proactive Approach to Literacy and Learning. The next one is Doing Youth Participatory Action Research. Next is Critical Foundations in Young Adult Literature, which he worked on while he was writing his dissertation, I think. I believe, yes. And he's the editor of Teaching in the Connected Learning Classroom, a publication of digital media learning. Antero is also a former National Council for Teachers of English, Cultivating New Voices Among Scholars of Color Fellow, and currently, along with our own Professor Kevin G., he is a National Academy of Education Spencer Postdoctoral Fellow. There he is. So on a personal note, Antero is a homie. We got through our PhD programs together, and I had the privilege of getting to know him when we were thinking about our projects, and later, since graduation, working on a publication together. His work continues to inspire me in how to think about what the everyday language and literacy practices of students are, and how we can truly leverage these rich practices into everyday spaces of learning to create powerful and humanizing research for all students. So please help me welcome Dr. Antero Garcia.
I gotta start before Danny gets down so my timer doesn't start yet. Thanks, Danny, I appreciate that. Oh yeah, that's not the preview thing. So my goal today in the next 20-ish minutes is I want us to think through the kind of journey we're going on with digital technologies in 3 different contexts. I want us to think about the kind of journey we're taking with digital technology with our students, in our profession, and for ourselves. So I'm going to just kind of offer kind of a triptych of 3 different ways to think through what's happening with digital technology. And we're going to go really quickly, which means these are all based on various studies that I've focused on. So this is my Twitter handle. So if you're interested in the methodology and all of those slides that usually we gloss over, I just took them out so I won't gloss over them. So reach out to me and I'm happy to send you the publications that these are all tied to. In order to do that, though, I want to think through the ways I'm thinking about this are thinking through how we're socializing in terms of communities of practice and the kinds of forms of action research that Danny mentioned. Thinking through action research along with youth and action research with teachers. I also want to offer a quick snapshot, right? So if we think about the kinds of virtual worlds that young people and adults alike are spending a lot of time in, and what collaboration looks like in these spaces. I've talked about Minecraft with many of the faculty today. And my favorite note about Minecraft is it's complex enough where you can build a computer in Minecraft, so theoretically you should be able to build a computer to play Minecraft inside of Minecraft, and then my brain hurts, right? And in the way that we're thinking about our relationship with esports and digital technology. Along with all of this, I also want to think through what this means for connected learning. This is a framework that Mimi Ito and a large cohort of scholars has helped think through this larger ecosystem of how young people are learning in outside informal learning environments primarily. And I've started thinking through what this means for teacher education. I want to push this to think through what connected literacies mean, particularly in an era of Black Lives Matter, and how we can think through what do connected literacies mean from a critical stance, and how do we engage with these as activists and thinking through the civic identities of young people. Okay, so all of that said is like a quick snapshot, because I'm going to go fast here. I want us to think through this responsible journey with all of that stuff marinating in your brain. And I want to start with a journey focusing on our students. To do that, I want to look at a meme. So there's a book you might have heard of called The Hunger Games. Who's read The Hunger Games? Okay, good. If you haven't, I'm going to spoil it. So leave, I guess, and then come back for the other presentations. So I want to talk about what I've called the Revolution. This is some work I was doing with literacy scholar Marcel Haddix. To do this, I want to look at a meme. This meme is a Tumblr page, and it takes place in 3 parts. So the first is it's a Tumblr page. It takes place within the platform of Tumblr, right, a microblogging platform. Next is a series of GIFs or GIFs, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And it is these GIFs from the end of the Hunger Games film. They also represent fairly accurately the end of the Hunger Games, the first book. If you haven't seen or read the book, spoiler alert, Thresh, who is from District 11, kills the girl from District 2, but spares Katniss in this bottom left-hand corner. And as you can see, he says, just this time 12, District 12, for Rue. People who've read the book, is this a familiar moment? Can someone who said, yeah, because I heard you, can someone explain why this is an important moment? Or why he doesn't kill Katniss in this moment? And I've got minutes, you gotta just talk, yeah.
Acknowledging kindness that was done to Rue, who was one of his district.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So that kindness, that the way that Katniss was respectful for her friend, this young girl named Rue, this is the only way he can repay her, right? So this is a meme, this was circulating, but what I wanna actually look at are the comments that happened underneath this, right? So the first comment says, and these all circulated with it. These were all part of the viral meme. Can we just stop and talk about this for a minute? Thresh doesn't make an alliance. Thresh doesn't waste time liking Katniss. Thresh knows that either he must kill her or she must kill him for one of them to win. But this is the only way he can repay her for protecting Rue when he couldn't. It's the only way he can repay her for honoring Rue when he couldn't. He honors her by sparing her friend, the girl who would have died for her. The revolution really doesn't start with Katniss. It starts with Rue. And then you see the second comment underneath it, right above Juan's head, says, somebody finally said it. There's a third comment that circulates with these, and it's a little bit longer, so I'm just going to pull out some excerpts. This is exactly the point I've been trying to make for years. Okay, so the revolution gets its kindling with Katniss, and it goes on. As a former English teacher, I really appreciate the kind of in-depth reading that this person goes on to. And then she says, or he or she says, but what changes the game is Rue. And it continues, the speech for Rue, Peeta's painting in the next book, everything alludes back to this one little girl who became Katniss's family. So the revolution never started with Katniss. She was just the tinder for Rue's ignition. Rue was the real Mockingjay. And I think about this in terms of the kinds of civic potential of what this means as a reader of the Hunger Games books, right? These notes have been circulated more than 250,000 times. That means oftentimes putting these on other people's blogs and liking them in that Facebook way. So we can think through, what does this context mean for readers of color, right? If Rue shows up in films as a young black girl, what does this mean as my reading as a person of color engaging with a young adult literature text? And I think about this in the context of what other kinds of viral media and what other kinds of civic lives are portrayed in the kinds of actions and lives of young people of color today, right? What does it mean to think of Rue as a revolutionary when when cities are nothing more than hashtags for civic engagement, right? I think this is the civic opportunity that we need to be thinking through. I want to mention here a text I received from a friend. Yeah, I'm tired, bro, super tired. Keep a button on this for a second. I also want to point out, so this is Amandla Stenberg. This is who played Rue in the first Hunger Games. She dies, so she's only in the first Hunger Games. And I'm going to read some tweets about her when the previews first came out for the Hunger Games. Why does Rue have to be black? Not going to lie, kind of ruined the movie. Cinna and Rue weren't supposed to be black. Why did the producer make all the good characters black? Shaking my head. Call me racist, but when I found out Rue was black, her death wasn't as sad. I hate myself. Rue looks nothing like I imagined her. Isn't she supposed to be a pale redhead, or was that just in my head? Why is she black? And for the record, I'm still pissed that Rue is black. Like, you think she might have mentioned that? Is that just me? There's a hashtag stick to the book, dude, because people were mad. And so I'm going to stick to the book. This is from the first book, and most hauntingly, a 12-year-old girl from District 11. She has dark brown skin and eyes, but other than that, she's very like Prim in size and demeanor. You guys all heard Danny's great introduction of me. I have a PhD. I'm an English teacher. So when I read this as an expert, I don't read white. Right? This is when I see dark brown skin and eyes. We could argue on what the race of Rue is, but it's probably not white based on my literal reading. Just want to point that out. Okay. And I want to think about that in light of what public imagination means, right? The late Maxine Greene talks about public imagination, but what does public imagination mean for civic lives of young people when a character is written as black and we still can't see her as that, right? I think we can think about the kinds of cultural blind spots that we're engaging in. The other very famous young adult literature example I want to think through as a metaphor to think through what's happening with young adult literature is Harry Potter and the Mirror of Erised. Does anyone here, are there any Harry Potter nerds who can tell us what the Mirror of Erised does?
It's a mirror where whoever looks into the mirror can see whatever they most desire.
Yeah, so whoever looks in the mirror can see whatever they most desire. Exactly, thank you. The deepest, most desperate desire of hearts is reflected in it, right? And Dumbledore only sees a new pair of socks when he looks in it. And so I would argue that young adult literature today, and particularly digital representations of young adult literature, if you are a white reader of young adult literature, you can look into that mirror and see yourself reflected in the kinds of experiences, right? If we think about the windows and mirrors of young adult literature, you can see yourself reflected in the lives and opportunities that are portrayed in these books. However, if you are a person of color and you are engaging in these texts, the image is going to come back distorted, right? There will be LGBTQ texts, but there's not enough of them to get an accurate reflection of yourself, right? If you are a young man of color, I hope you like sports or gangs, right? We can think through, I'll just point out that for Hamilton nerds, the audiobook of Aristotle and Dante is read by Lin Miranda, so you should just listen to it. I'm going to move on, I'm sorry. Okay, a warning, man is wasted away before the Mirror of Erised, entranced by what they've seen, not knowing if what it shows is real or even possible. And I want to think about what are the possibilities around young people and digital technology as reflected in young adult literature. But I also want to think about the words of James Baldwin, you must consider what happens to a life which finds no mirror. And so I want to pause here to think through what are the limitations of young people as we move into what are some of the limitations in our profession as this journey and the kinds of warnings up ahead. So before I moved to Colorado, I helped open this school, the Critical Design and Gaming School. It is also in South Central Los Angeles. It's a public high school. The population reflects the community population, 60.5% Latino, 37% Black. Annual median income is $31,000. And I want to think through, the challenge was I helped co-design a school around principles of game design, and then I left. And the other teacher who also helped design this school had been laid off by LAUSD every single year, so he left. And so we didn't have the kind of professional development resources around this, so we've been going back and developing what we're calling player professional development. So along with teachers, we used Jenga stacks, and basically teachers took the process of learning how to play and understanding principles of play seriously, right? Figuring out how can I embody myself as a player, and how will that funnel into my classroom. So this is a study that I presented at ARA, and I'm happy to share the paper with any of you. And so they took play seriously, and so that means something like playing Jenga and talking about it as a community and reflecting on those practices. As one participant in this teacher inquiry study said, we don't always think of games as being professional. Hopefully this is the start of things about to change. And then the task for all of the teachers was everyone is going to bring a game each time to our meetings. They had set aside time. We're going to play the game and talk about modifications as well as outcomes for teachers and for students. And they okayed this with the principal, who also helped co-design the school. This was a grassroots process. And so that was the plan, right? That through leadership and taking on gameful identities, they were going to transform the learning experience of young people. This was a game jam at the end of the school year that students participated in. But there were limitations, because as soon as the principal okayed it, the next month after this meeting where they were playing Jenga, the principal then said, actually, you guys can't have all that meeting time. I'll give you like a meeting every other month because we have our WASC accreditation, and he took away that time. And so teachers felt tired. One quote in particular from a teacher, we are tired when your group says to a group of teachers, let's meet after our meeting. Whatever follows that sentence doesn't matter. We are tired. Tired of meetings, tired of working hard and then being asked to do more because it's needed, and then not being compensated or even acknowledged for all of the extra work. We're just being burnt out, right? And I think through what is the biggest challenge in terms of the kinds of connected learning contexts for teachers in schools today, and it's that we're not sustaining these in humanizing ways that are necessary and revitalizing for the profession, right? Teachers tried to create magic time by playing games like Magic the Gathering during lunch, but it's hard to have a professional development after school and all day teaching during a teaching schedule. You're just plain exhausted, but I guess that's the purpose of having teacher-player professional development. So we tried to center ourselves around having fun. But again, they tried to be flexible, but there are some real struggles, right? In order to do that, they switched from playing professional development to trying to escape from professional development. And they went to escape rooms, which is a growing phenomenon where basically you and your friends willingly lock yourselves in a room for an hour and try to solve the puzzles to escape from them. You should do it if that sounds like a weird thing, you've never heard of it. It's an experience. So they had gotten grant funding, and they'd gotten sub days, and they'd gotten all this approved to go to an escape room and do some community building as a professional development group. However, one of the colleagues in this posted this on his blog. I should really have entitled this post, "There is no escape from PD." After being honored as one of the United Way's 25 most inspirational teachers the night before, I woke up to find this email waiting in my box. Out of an abundance of caution, I double-checked with so-and-so regarding the approval of the PD for your 7 teachers next Friday. She was very surprised that it was approved and clearly stated that it was a mistake, blah, blah. Consider this message a formal notification that PD has not been approved by ISIC or by me. This is from the principal. And so we can think through the tensions with the principal and with administration to try to support teachers around this work, right? Where are administrative tensions? How do we find the learning context and adjust teachers to prepare them properly for this work? As that teacher noted, eventually we were able to play the game of LUSD and emerge victorious. Our team was indeed able to escape professional development and create something much more effective in the end. And so I want to think through, as urban educators, these teachers had to take a stance, and they originally thought that stance was going to be playing professional development, but they realized they had to take that stance and move it to escaping from professional development and what those kinds of challenges mean as we move forward. Okay, so we talked about students, we talked about the profession. I want to think through what is the responsible journey around technology with ourselves. So this is Mark. Mark is a friend. Actually, he, Maribel, and I all went through the teacher education program together. He helped co-found the Critical Design and Gaming School in Los Angeles. Has been a formative member at that school, so I've known him for a long time. He was also the person who texted this to me earlier in the year. Yes, yeah, I'm tired, bro, super tired. And I want to think about what makes urban teachers tired, right? And the ways we communicate this in digital contexts. So he posted a blog post that said, celebrating a life, a different kind of homecoming. I'm going to read the first sentence in the last paragraph of this blog post. Today, a community came together as they have many times before to celebrate the life of a young man taken too early. And then he goes on. He talks for a while. The last day I spoke to Elijah, I celebrated, however momentarily, in those minutes during passing period, his accomplishments. He was improving and moving the needle forward on his academic meter. He was honing in on a focused pursuit of his goals to play football and attend a college. Today when we spoke to Elijah, we celebrated the same thing. We're proud of his life, though so very short and so unnecessarily violent in end. It is the possibilities in life that keep us coming back. And I want to think through, how do we sustain our work as educators, as teacher educators, and how do we sustain that of our friends, family, and colleagues, right? Mark, as someone who has 3 children at home and a wife, and how does he go home after losing students at school, right? And how does he balance and not bring that into his home? And what are the healthy practices in which we support ourselves, right? And I want to think through an exchange I had with a new teacher via Twitter, right? So I woke up one morning, and someone who is in her first year as a teacher in Denver has sent me the following message. She said, hey, so one of my students who's never around was shot yesterday morning. She's in the hospital. Don't know more than that. Considering you've probably dealt with this and worse, what do you do to cope in times like this? It's unfamiliar territory to this privileged white girl. Frowny face? I don't know what we'd call that. And I quickly respond, and notice how I go into triage mode, and I want to critique this. If this is common knowledge for your students, they probably need some place to talk, ask questions, feel safe. You don't need to be an expert, but you do need to cope. You should see if you can visit after school at all. Make sure there's a counselor who knows and that his or her services are available. I keep going. If students are aware of what's happening, I'm sure they will be. Moving on to typical lesson plans probably isn't the right move until after some class discussion. Talk with your AP or principal about how you're feeling, see if there's any support here. And then, almost as an afterthought, I say, it's okay to be upset and sad and uncertain. It would be weird not to, right? It's after this kind of triage mode that we as teachers go into that I said, oh, hey, by the way, you should think about your own feelings. You should think about like how you're healing, how you're processing. And I want to critique this, right? This is the wrong way to do it. And then she responds and says, we aren't supposed to talk about it in the class because the family has requested as much privacy as possible for the time being. I haven't heard about it from my kids, and this student isn't close with anyone in my class. I don't think. School staff is being great about directives. I'm more asking for advice on how to personally cope with it, since it's a really foreign, difficult experience, right? Clearly, she was asking for this, and that's not at all where my thinking was going, right? This is a real gap, and obviously, digital technology is not the solution to this kind of conversation, right? She says, I know my kids lead rough lives and that they have lost people close to them and so forth, but this is the first time I've seen a student get hurt, and it opened up a world of vulnerability for me mentally, especially since I've gotten close with one of my students who is in a gang. And I think about like, what are the missing lessons in terms of how we're supporting teacher responsibility for ourselves, right? We spend a lot of time as teachers figuring out how do we remain student-centered, and sometimes I need to think through how are we centered on ourselves and our own needs. Right? And each other, right? How would I support the colleagues around me? So I want to think through these responsible journeys, right? The kinds of choppy waters we have around all of these pieces. And I want to think through this in terms of the metaphor of the Ship of Theseus, which I'll come back to in a second. There's a whole lot of stuff that is around this ship, right? Of thinking of our students, the teaching profession, and ourselves. There's a lot of flotsam and jetsam in the water. How do we deal with all of this? And I want to think through the Ship of Theseus. This is also talked about in museum studies as the same acts twice. And the Ship of Theseus is this, right? So Theseus returns from his journeys, and he comes into port, and the Athenians see his boat as a herald to the kind of great accomplishments of the Romans. And so they keep it in port for years and years and years. And then every once in a while, a piece of wood on the ship would rot, and they'd just set it to the side, and they'd replace it with another piece, right? And another piece would rot, and they'd set it to the side, until eventually years and years go by, and there's a pile of wood so big that it's next to the original ship, and you could theoretically build 2 identical ships of Theseus. And which one is the real ship, right? And I wonder, at what point do the digital tools that we're implementing in school simply recreate the same inequalities that they've been trying to address year after year, right? How is the Ship of Theseus something that we need to address as a teaching profession, right? So what journey are we taking on this vessel, right? And is this ship a seaworthy one? So I'm going to end by wanting to think through these questions, and maybe this is where some conversation can come at the end. How does connected learning shape in-school student identities? What are the relational and narrative-driven opportunities cultivated? And how do we support pre-service teachers vis-a-vis the shifting context of culture and schooling? Thank you.